What is going on, everybody? Mario Mungia here, Infighting Exchange, Infighting FX, currently live on 3 platforms, YouTube, X, and IG. Actually, now we're live on IG. Gonna probably take like the next 10 minutes promoting and stuff. So for everyone that's showing up live early, I appreciate it first and foremost. Yeah, I think Machine Gun Matt's supposed to come on. For the big topic of today. And the big topic of today is going to be Sami Zayn losing the WWE World title last night on Raw, by the way. It wasn't even a SmackDown show. And losing it to CM Punk, who now it seems will be facing Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. While that hasn't been officially announced, it seems like that is going to be the case, which would align with most of the reports that have suggested we are going to get some version of Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, as well as Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and then of course Obafemi and Brock Lesnar. And we're going to ask, of the 3 main events for SummerSlam, which one is the most must see? Which of these 3 matches, again, Obafemi, Brock Lesnar in the Hell in the Cell, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns for Roman's WWE heavyweight title, and then Cody Rhodes challenging for CM Punk's now WWE world title. Which of those 3 is the match of SummerSlam? That's what we want to know. That's what we're going to ask today. Shout out to Alex. Hey, fun times, champ. We're going to talk about it. That's for sure. Mario Hip Thrust Mongia, aka Mexington Steel. Salute. Shout out to Low knows boxing, but that's a false narrative because Low knows more than boxing. That's for sure. Does Punk turn heel at any point in the lead up or at SummerSlam, or does Cody turn? Cody versus Punk is who Low thinks is the premier match at SummerSlam. And here's the thing, right? We'll get into this topic officially here in just a bit, but I want to kind of give the premise for all 3 because Low already saying Cody versus Punk resonates with me. And I'll tell you why. And some of this is just because of the show, right? And my community. But Matt had been a proponent of this match, what he called the biggest AEW match to happen in WWE, or he framed it some way like that. And it was actually really smart. That said, though, that's not like the narrative anybody really gives a shit about, but it is still the case, right? So there's this history that is rich that also dives into another lore of wrestling altogether. Now, you could make the argument that Punk's already lost to Roman. So fighting Cody Rhodes, the guy who is 1-1 with Roman, would not value the company's overall story by having Punk win. So in other words, Cody, I think Low could be right. This could be the premier match of SummerSlam. If he's wrong, what the hell? That was scary as shit. If he's wrong, here's the problem. How does he lose? Right? Because you got to keep that Cody Roman match sacred. You have to. All right. Time's going to pass. People are going to want it. And the demand is only going to be as valid as the stakes. I want to repeat that. Okay. For anybody who's a boxing fan like Low, who's in the comments, he knows that the AJ Fury fight is one of the richest fights in boxing. And yet it does not exist at all in the same kind of way that it did 5 years ago, let alone a decade ago. And so you have this sort of perception here where it could be the bigger match of the night, but it's also the match that I think is the most handicapped. And you could argue that Obafemi winning is like all but certain for Brock Lesnar's final match. But given the amount of surprises they've tried to attempt with Brock Lesnar's retirement and then coming back and all that, maybe there's a situation where Brock Lesnar doesn't retire till December just to get a win in his hometown. And, who knows? I'm picking Oba. I'm picking him right now. I think he should win. I think it would be stupid if he doesn't. And yet, I'm kind of used to stupid booking from WWE at this point. Punk versus Cody should happen when Cody turns heel. Okay, we're going to get back to Alex's thing because he asked, does Punk turn heel? Here's the thing. Punk could turn heel. I don't think Cody would, but by SummerSlam. Now, if someone's going to turn heel by SummerSlam, that would probably be CM Punk. I would bet. Going into the match as the heel champion, I think is a much better storyline than going in as the heel challenger. That said, Cody's heel turn, that's an entire like year's worth of storyline, right? So I don't really see it happening before. I could see it happening at SummerSlam or the Raw after SummerSlam, depending on what happens or the booking. But I think we're going to go into this match without this is going to feel like Roman versus Punk in a lot of ways, where it's like, who are we going for? Who's supposed to be the face? All of it is just nuanced, right? This is a situation where these guys are bigger than heel versus face, right? This matchup is bigger than that. Cody needs to turn heel already. I agree, champ. And I think that's part of the reason why they did the whole Sami Zayn thing. Cody versus Punk is Mania level. I agree. And here's the thing. We can all understand that Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins was supposed to happen at WrestleMania, right? We can all understand that Cody Rhodes, CM Punk was supposed to happen at WrestleMania. These are matches that were booked, but because of injuries and having to reshuffle the card, we ended up where we ended up. So this is really Triple H showing us how dedicated he is to the ideas that he's had. He's not going to abandon something just because, time has occurred or injuries or things out of his control. Lowe's predicting Cody turns heel already. If Roman versus Seth is truly the last time they go one-on-one, that circumstance makes it the premier match at SummerSlam. If it's their final match, that's the exact narrative I was just about to go to with Seth and Roman, because he's absolutely right. If this is the final match, if the narrative that was used last Monday to create this program goes forward as is, it has to be the bigger match, right? And again, I'm not trying to, I haven't said exactly which match I think. We'll get into that conversation. I'm really just trying to show y'all how complex this conversation really is, because there are so many pros and cons as far as what makes either of them the premier match. And in the case of Roman and Seth, the finality of it, finality, is that a word? The final aspect of this is what drives the ultimate narrative, right? If this is the match, the final one to decide who truly is better, who is that guy, I mean, there is nothing bigger than that. You have it's like having Hogan versus Nash, or like, the two guys responsible, or two of the three guys responsible for this entire momentum swing, right? And that's what the Shield represented, right? Those were the three most prolific wrestlers in that stage of their career. WWE looked at them as not just the future, but as the future that ends up shaping wrestling. And that's exactly what happened. You cannot argue that Jon Moxley, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns together in the since they debuted in WWE have not completely shifted the culture of wrestling in a huge way. And I could give you specifics as it relates to Roman Reigns and his booking, as it relates to Seth Rollins and his body of work, as it relates to Jon Moxley and what he was able to do with AEW and putting them on the map. So again, you have the three most prolific wrestlers that were the future, and now they have to decide, and now they're going to get it on in the ring and decide. That's huge, dude. That is huge. That is such a monumental match. And yet, last night they seemed to shy away from it a little bit, It was weird. I'm not gonna lie. Throwing LA Knight out there doesn't feel like the move. A win in your hometown, LOL. You must be new here. That's funny. That's why it's the Shield era. Exactly. But we have to continue this narrative because they seem to really want to back away from it. And my thing is this: I'm worried that the narrative from last Monday got out and the excitement level of guys like Alex and myself who were like, oh my God, is this going to be the last time these guys actually wrestle? Are we getting like the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels Survivor Series match, right? Are we getting the Rock Hogan WrestleMania match? Are we getting the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns at WrestleMania now is the last time match? Are we getting the John Cena versus The Rock? Are we getting the definitive matchup that tells the rest of the story? Because if we do, I don't know who wins. You could argue Roman wins because why wouldn't he? But you can also argue that he doesn't need the win. And Seth would be the one that would be most benefited from that final win, right? And you could have the narrative that Seth won, and that's the big thing. But then you also have the narrative that Roman did everything else better than Seth. He was that guy. No matter what Seth wants to say, and that's the one thing about LA Knight's program last night that did resonate. You went to this story like, hey, this is the last time we might ever get a chance to fight Roman. And then you went to back this past Monday, the same narratives you always did. It was, oh, Roman's this guy who always gets his way. Yeah, okay. So did John Cena. So did Hulk Hogan. So did the Ultimate Warrior. So did all the top money guys, right? So that argument is just, it's moot for me. But we're going to go over the Raw recap for tonight, or for last night. We're going to go through the good and the bad and all of that. We're going to take a look, as I said, at the SummerSlam card that is shaping out. And we're going to ask which SummerSlam match of the three main events is best. And then we're going to take a look at the Money in the Bank. We're going to do just an early preview, like a 5-minute segment. I just want to look at it. The reason I want to look at it is because I'm very, very excited for next week. Very excited for next week. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to show you why. Next week on Raw, they're going to run the number one contender gauntlet match, 7-man gauntlet match. That's going to include, if you're watching the show, then you see it on the screen. But if not, and you're listening only, the participants will be Dragon Lee, Chad Gable, Javon Evans, Rusev, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Dominic Cruz. This is awesome. This is, in my opinion, the best mid-card work or the best mid-card universe. I don't know what the word I should use is, that WWE has had in a really long time. The mid-card has felt so stale in WWE for so long. And I really think that is a major proponent as to why a lot of people aren't over today. Okay. That said, though, they could fuck this up. Absolutely. Right. But this gives me hope for what we could see at Money in the Bank. And the reason why I wanted to even talk about Money in the Bank in the first place is, the graphics they showed, the promotion. I mean, SummerSlam's like in less than a month, and yet they're promoting Money in the Bank, which will be in New Orleans. And, it just, I don't know, it felt like a little more important. I feel like based on the promotion, and because Money in the Bank was moved to this part of the year, right, which it'll be in October, it gives me the feeling that the Money in the Bank is going to turn into something less long-term and more resolute. Like, they're going to go after the narrative like right away. There's not going to be this, like, for the last few years, right? We've had the same sort of storylines play over and over, right? Like, and I'll use Tiffany as an example. Will she or won't she? That's the Money in the Bank guarantee. Will she or won't she? Well, you're going to watch every pay-per-view for the rest of the year to find out that she's not, until she does. And so the frustration of that, I think, has grown for fans. I think that might be one of the reasons why Triple H really doesn't like that entire thing, the Money in the Bank. But if you look at the Royal Rumble and you say there's a event that is like a playoff that leads to the Super Bowl of WrestleMania, possibly they will do the same thing with Money in the Bank. Again, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, that they're going to take out the element of surprise. What I do think is we're not going to be in for a lengthy briefcase holder. This is I don't think we're going to get that, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Oh, appreciate it, Matt. So anyway, let's get into the show. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about the stuff we didn't get to talk about yesterday with boxing and with MMA. McGregor is back. We'll look into what the promotion is looking like at this point. All right. Exchange infighting effect. Let me see. What is going on here? Kins is in the building. What's going on, Kins? Dominic versus Penta at SummerSlam would be the biggest option. Gable or Joe Hendry would be a good match for Penta at Saturday Night Main Event. Agreed. Although I wonder what they're going to do with Dom, because has anybody remembered he's the mega champion for AAA? Because he hasn't really been having the belt with him, and now he's in this low mid card thing with Danhausen. We're going to get into that as well. But let's get into the show. Let me just post this one last promotional, and then let me go to IG and do the same. All right, wait, what the fuck is this? Hey, shout out to Kamar Lewis. Shout out to Brandon Dolly. Shout out to Hector Martinez. Shout out to Carol. Shout out to Oscar Williams. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Sweet Science Sports. And shout out to Bodywork Boxing. Appreciate the follows, champ. Appreciate y'all tapping into live. Appreciate all the support that I've been getting across social medias. Remember, you can hit the live, you can hit the like, you can hit the sub, you can hit the follow. This is the spot where we talk about wrestling, boxing, MMA, Monday through Thursday, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, X, and IG. We will be live on Twitch tonight. There's a concealed weapon in the chat, guys. I mean, in the green room, guys. We have an official long weapon right that has just entered the domain, and I think he's come for the smoke. Machine Gun Matt, what is going on, champ?
I'm dying over here. Hold on.
That's all right. That's all right.
Ghost in here. You didn't see that?
No, I didn't, but I will be killing it. And so maybe that's the ghost. You're seeing your own ghost in real life. Yeah, you sound great. Any thoughts on Jay Uso's divorce? He's kind of brought it on himself. Yo, Alex is the fucking best, dude. I swear to God, his comments are either informative or like fucking hilarious. Or this isn't. It's not that this is hilarious. It's more like just super honest. Yeah, listen. The idea that he's been dating Jada.
I mean, it's been a known thing, so there's no like real surprise that it's been made like legal paperwork, you know?
Sure, absolutely. I agree with that. I do, though, feel like there is a narrative for Jey Uso that's like a spiraling thing. I don't know. I think they should adopt that shit. But anyway, Matt, you and I have some business to attend to. You and I are here to debate a topic, and this topic is the biggest topic of the week. And that is the fact that CM Punk is the world champion, won it last night in Illinois, Chicago, at the Allstate Arena, was it, right?
Yep.
I think it was
Formerly
the
known
Allstate.
as the Rosemont Horizon.
Thank you. Dude, you're so good at this, bro. You're so good at this. You know what? It's because you don't smoke as much weed as I do. So you don't have a shitty memory. Now, obviously we're not going to go through this
Is it
because
that, or is it because I have an obsessive disorder about the wrong things in life?
ooh, that's
But,
probably much more
that's
honest.
one.
Yeah, no. That's I'm grateful for you being honest. But listen, not what I wanted.
Uh-oh.
So listen, we're gonna talk about this. Last night, CM Punk came out and it was announced as a surprise, even though the crowd was chanting CM Punk the whole time. Matt, before we get into the actual debate itself and the topic itself, what did you think of how they did it last night? Right, surprise, and then they had the GM in Aldis, who was supposed to be suspended, acquire the services of Punk, unbeknownst to Adam Pearce. And then he shows up and does the job. How did you feel about it?
Oh, okay, there we go. I mean, it made quirky sense and a kayfabe stance because, like, for one, I was talking about this because I went live this morning on TikTok, and I was thinking about this because I was listening to a couple other lives and a couple other like former wrestlers talk about it. It was kind of stupid logically, right? Because Nick Aldis said he was in the building, but then he walked in the building from outside the building when he showed up. That was
Yes.
kind of dumb. But then at the same time, it's like you're right. Like, isn't Nick Aldis supposed to be suspended from, like, I guess just SmackDown, and he's on Raw? And it,
Yeah,
but
they
it,
said Adam Pearce was supposed to be the one, shout out to Bruce Gas,
yeah,
taking over for him.
bro. But like at the same time, like we both said this, like it did make sense. Okay, if he has some kind of power, then it's his show. He should be calling that. But I said this on TikTok this morning on my live, guys. If you check out Talking About Radio, both on TikTok and YouTube, I said this was the easiest way for them to get the belt off Sami and not get booed for it. There
Love
was
that.
no other person and no other city where they could have did this other than CM Punk in Chicago, because they're not gonna boo CM Punk. They're gonna cheer CM Punk no matter what he does, bro. No matter what he does. Piper in Portland, Austin in Texas, don't matter. He's gonna get cheered. They're gonna love him. He's a god to them. The Second City Saint is a real thing. Because Mario, I think me and you can agree. If that had been Cody Rhodes that beat him, he would have got booed out the building last night for that. I think
Oh
we can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Agreed. It would have been terrible. At the same time, could you have made even more like impact on the title had he won? Like, all I'm saying is this: for everybody that was saying that like Sammy's title run was always going to be short, that's true. But that doesn't negate the story that's been told. And that's really the whole point that I'm gonna bring to this table, Matt, is that the
Okay.
idea that somehow Sammy winning the title was a commentary on his appeal or his commercial overness, whatever you want to say. That's not the case, I don't think. I think that we tell stories in wrestling and they either work or they don't. And so when it comes to the aspect of Sami Zayn, I'll say what you said last night and with him losing. I was
Yes.
very sports entertained. Did it
Yeah.
make the most sense? No, not really. Did it work out the way they wanted it? No, not at all. Everybody thought it was going to be CM Punk. I posted it was going to be CM Punk, whenever you mentioned it on the show. And so it didn't work in all those ways, but it worked from the sense that it was fun. It was exciting. Like it was something new, right? But the idea that somehow it was a mistake or that it only being 9 days makes it a failure, No, that's just not true. It's not the case because the title is a living thing, right? It is part of a narrative. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like Zelda, and it's like the sword in Zelda, right? Or like the crown in Zelda. Like you got to go, or you know what it's like in Super Mario? It's like a Yoshi, right? Like you want to find a Yoshi and you want to develop it. You find a little Yoshi and you get it better. That's the same thing with a championship belt. Just because you win the championship doesn't make you a champion, right? Bret Hart won it the first time, didn't really resonate. Shawn Michaels won it the first time, didn't really resonate. Undertaker won it a couple of times, didn't resonate ever. You know,
Whoa.
he beat Sid Justice for the title, Matt. You probably don't even remember what that match looked like because nobody liked it.
I mean, nobody liked it, but like they resonated with Shawn Michaels becoming the champion.
Eventually,
I mean, not eventually.
eventually.
They reacted pretty well to that's the guy they wanted to be the champion.
No. See, whenever Shawn Michaels first came out, he had this horny music that was so distracting. He had these glasses, these vests, right? This hairy chest popping out. He was showing his crack and the bottom of his dick tip. Like it was just weird. Nobody thought of him as a champion. They thought of him as an attraction. And he became a champion because his ability was so good.
Is that not what the world champion of a wrestling company is an attraction?
Not necessarily. No,
What?
not necessarily. No. Sergeant Slaughter wasn't an attraction, right? The Iron Sheik. Well, I guess Iron Sheik
wasn't an attraction. Andre the Giant, attraction. Hulk Hogan, an attraction. John Cena,
yes. No. The champion can become an attraction, but the champ. Look, okay? So we're gonna argue that Bob Backlund was an attraction. Are we gonna argue that
they became champion?
Sure, absolutely.
Become champion. This is the biggest attraction.
Exactly. So then, in that argument, can we not state that the aspect of this title reign is still developing, like the story's still being told? Where does Sami end up on the end of this, right? That's my only point, is that it's not a failure until he's cemented in his next role or his next program, right? And we see what it does for him. All I know is that he is now a former WWE world champion. And just like it changed the narrative for Kofi for the fans and not backstage, same thing going on right now. In fact, I would be willing to bet that the brass, the WWE creative, would actually prefer Sami Zayn as the champion over CM Punk, because at the end of the day, Sami's going to do what they want you to do. If he says, hey, lose it in 9 days, Sami, he's going to say, yes, sir. How hard do you want me to fall?
You think
they tell Punk, hey, we want you to lose it on Friday? He's going to say, fuck you. I'm taking this belt and I'm throwing it in the fucking trash, just like Alundra Blaze did on WCW. Stop it, champ. You know that that's the case.
You think that Triple H, of all people, would prefer Sami Zayn over CM Punk as the WWE champion?
I think that a boss would prefer an employee who's on time, who is a professional, who does what he's told, who goes above and beyond to fulfill his role. Not the guy who's going to say, wait, you want me on fries? What are you talking about? I'm not a fry guy. I'm better than a fry guy. That's CM Punk.
But what about the guy I specifically asked you about? You think Triple H wants CM Punk, the guy who's booking the show, he would rather have Sami Zayn champion instead of CM Punk?
Yes. Yes, I think that it's easier to do his job with Sami Zayn as the champion than it is to have CM Punk. Do I think Nick Khan wants Sami Zayn as champion? No. Do I think Ari Emanuel wants CM Punk as champion? Absolutely, yes. Do I think that the people whose primary focus is on the money quarterly want Sami Zayn to be champ? No, of course not. But when you are talking about running a week-to-week show that depends on the health and the willingness of the athletes, then yes. It's like if you're a coach, right? And you're running like a goal line play and you have a badass, center, but you have a guy who's has a specialty. You want that guy in his role because you know the way he does his job, right? He's not a better talent. He's not athletically better, But when it comes to deep snapping, when it comes to holding, when it comes to kick, whatever their specialty is, at the end of the day, they excel at that role. Imagine if you had a kicker who they said, hey, we want you to go out there and kick the 3-pointer, right, to tie the game. And he's like, nah, I was a fucking quarterback in high school. What are you talking about? Give me the fake. I'll fucking throw it. And
We're
it's
not
like, nah,
talking
dude,
about a
you're
good
doing too much.
soldier and a specialty person, Mario. We're talking about a star. A star. How many 5-tool players are a star, Mario?
How many of them show up as a star?
But how many of them are a star? That's the point we're talking about, is how many of them are a star. They came out and flat out told you today and last night that he's not a money guy. He's just not.
I agree. But we knew that though, Matt, right? So how can you use that as an argument to prove your point when that's not even a debate on the table, right? I concede he is not a money guy. But since when does being a money guy have to do with being a champion? Drew McIntyre just won the belt. You're telling me he's a money guy?
Yes, because Drew McIntyre can draw money in his country. Sami Zayn can't. Mario, they have multiple Clash at the Castles because of who? Who's always in the main event of Clash at the Castle? It's Drew McIntyre.
No, you killed me by saying that, because because right there, the first time in our debates, you are now trying to win the argument as opposed to making your point, because you know goddamn well, if I asked you 6 months ago if Drew McIntyre is a star or is he a draw, you would have said absolutely not. So Terrence Crawford's a big star, right? Because he was able to draw or Boots Ennis is a big pay-per-view star because he draws in Philly.
He can only draw in a certain area. Drew McIntyre can draw an entire part of the world to one spot. All of Europe will go blood behind Drew McIntyre. And Mario, let me ask you this. Why did they make Jinder Mahal champion? Why?
Yeah, exactly. To get over in where he was from. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Do you think that Sami Zayn, does he draw any money in those shows in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
No, because those are paid for shows. What money?
Exactly. So they're already drawn. So whoever's in the main event is the draw champ. Hold
on. They've been going there for almost 10 years. Why has he barely main evented in the past 5?
Because the first 5 years was the most problematic aspect of this deal. The politics and the cultural differences separated. Like, you could ask, why wasn't Rhea there? Why wasn't she? Well, we know the answer, because those that culture doesn't accept women in the same way. And we can say the same thing with Sami. He didn't even go the first couple years. He was persona non grata and or didn't want to go with Kevin Owens. So it's not as simple as, oh, why didn't they just put the title on him before? Again, this is story.
Not even the title. Why didn't they put him in a main event sooner? Even when the
Saudi
was done, he didn't main event for 2 more years.
Are you talking about specifically Saudi, or are you just saying in general?
Saudi Arabia. Why didn't Sami Zayn main event until recently?
I'll tell you why. Because Saudi is a market of marks ran by the king mark himself, Turkey. So they were much more enamored by a bald Shawn Michaels and a bald Undertaker and a bald Triple H and a bald Kane. That's what they wanted. They were super horny. Remember when Turkey was like, hey, bring back that Yokozuna guy? Yo, there is not a bigger mark thing to say than to ask for a dead wrestler that's passed a long time ago.
Let me ask you this, though, because this is what I told you the minute Night of Champions was done. Because they did this just like Darby Allin, and I said it was going to be worse because the timing is my biggest issue. You're saying he's drawing money in Saudi Arabia, a prepaid show that doesn't even draw money because they've been paid to just show.
Exactly, so it's already drawn. So
me and you in the main event, Mario, that doesn't count as me. You drawing the money for the main event. That shit was paid for.
No, it does, though. It does, because you as WWE, you're responsible for putting out the product. And if you believe in us that much.
Let me finish, though.
My bad.
If you're saying he's drawing money, where would he have drawn more money? At Night of Champions or at WrestleMania that's coming up? That's also in Saudi Arabia.
Sure.
So why do it at Night of Champions if he's only going to hold the title for 9 days? If you're going to do what you were going to do anyway, just like Tony Khan, right? If you're going to do what you were going to do anyway, what was the point of this?
Okay, I'm gonna
simply because, like I said, and it's true. Monday night, last night proved it. Sami Zayn was given the title just as a reward for his time in the WWE. That's it. Plain and simple. We're going to make you a world champion so we can tell your story for the remainder of time. You're going to be in that hall of WWE champions.
Dude.
Here you go. We like you.
When have they ever done that,
We
Matt?
like you. You're a good guy. Finn Balor. We like you. You're a good guy. Here's this. But you're not going to keep it.
Okay.
And you know who else they did it? To his friend, Kevin Owens. We like you. You've been a good soldier. You're a Triple H guy. Here's the belt. But guess what? You're going to get squashed by fucking Goldberg.
Yo,
Another
now
bigger
now
star
you're just trying to
comes
win the argument
around.
because you know damn well Kevin Owens represented something so much different. So hold on, wait. Do you think Kevin Owens is not a bigger money player than Sami Zayn?
Why hasn't he been the world champ since? He's a one-time world champion.
The same reason Drew McIntyre hadn't been a champion. The same reason why Rey Mysterio hasn't been the champion. There's only been 4 world champions, Matt. There's only been 4. No. See, because this is the thing, right? Okay, look, real quick. I will say that last point you made is good enough that I can't come up with anything at this moment. Okay, but what I can try to do is present it in a different way. Now, I don't want to lose the audience with this one. I really don't. So if I'm starting to get crazy or starting to say anything that doesn't make any sense, please interrupt. Please tell me, okay? So what I'm trying to say is this. Stories in wrestling work in a lot of ways in the same way like matchups do in football, baseball, basketball. Now, I'm going to use baseball because I understand baseball better than the rest of those sports. So if you had a team, right? And this is a 26-man roster, right? So you have a 26-man roster, and then in September, you get to expand it. And when September hits, you don't bring up your 3 best players that everyone thinks, oh, yeah, just bring up your 3. No, you bring up like a finesse pitcher, right? Or you bring up like a bullpen guy, or you bring up like a young starter, or even more weird, you bring up guys that don't hit the ball well at all. You bring up a guy that you can implant for stealing, for bunting, for just moving, right? Somebody who can achieve a strategy inside the diamond, okay? So similarly, the way that a coach would choose a shitty hitter who can run over a really good hitter who can't run for that specific situation to score a run, this is what's happened with Sami Zayn. In this lead up to SummerSlam, there existed a small window where they could achieve a hometown pop for him, which, I mean, it wasn't really a hometown pop, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Achieve a storyline that they have been narrating for so long. See, the problem with Sami Zayn is that he's been in the title picture for the last year and a half. He has been with Cody, with Jey Uso, all along the way. And that doesn't even include his time with the bloodline around Roman. He has been circling the world title for so long. It made less sense for him to not be the world champion. That was a double negative. Let me say this again. It would have made less sense for him to lose and then literally just like, because it's nothing at that point. Then you've wasted all of that story where now we have a Sami Zayn that we can be sympathetic towards, possibly, or we have a Sami Zayn that can get deranged and then completely go heel. There is avenues that were created by this world title win.
He's the heel. People forget that he was turning into the heel of his story with Gunther and Cody Rhodes. Why am I sympathetic towards this guy? Why?
But he's not
even like Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens as a justifiable heel. He's just a heel.
And isn't that the first step to stardom? Isn't the lines being blurred between heel and face the first step to the next level?
But no, because that's not the story that they're telling you. The story that they're telling you, because what you got to react to also is the reactions of the people working around them too, right? Mario, it's simple, man. CM Punk is a bigger star. CM Punk is becoming everything he said out to be against, right? Just like John Cena said. And this is why John Cena posted his picture of him in Saudi Arabia. Because here he is, the guy that used to complain about the big part-time star that would come around, take the main event spot of the belt, and then, all the hard-working weekly guys would just get pushed back down the ladder. And who's become that guy now? CM Punk. Because what did he do last night, Mario? He showed up to Chicago, got a big, huge surprise pop, and walked away with the belt. Because he's a bigger star than Sami Zayn. Point blank, period. Flat.
So, okay, you're
You're
right.
right.
I'm not
I'm
saying
not
you're
saying you're
wrong.
wrong.
What I am
What
going
I
to
am
say
going
is
to say is
this.
this.
The only
The only
reason you're right is because SummerSlam's coming up. If this was not a month out from the second biggest PLE in wrestling history, I don't know that Sami Zayn's reign would have been only 9 days. I don't know that, had he won in December, he wouldn't have taken it all the way to, wherever. Or I'm sorry, after WrestleMania, I meant. Like, all I'm saying here is that you cannot say that Sami Zayn's title win didn't make sense. It absolutely made sense, specifically how he won. When you look at the fact that Cody was basically protected in the sense that they had a triple threat match that wore everyone down, and he snuck the win. Right, this is the same Bret Hart over Bam Bam, Owen versus Bret, like that stealing the match moment. And who are the guys that do that? Those are the ring technician guys that everybody has always considered Sami to be one, right?
Doesn't
So
that diminish him when you lose it in your first defense? Don't
it
we
does.
don't
It
we
does.
discredit guys in boxing who can't defend their
Can't
title
defend.
after they win it?
Absolutely. You are 100% right. I cannot even remotely disagree with that, because the truth is, it doesn't just diminish Sami Zayn. To a degree, it diminishes the title. Now, I'm not saying the title's been diminished fully,
Boom.
but
There you go.
I'm not saying it's been diminished fully, but it only gets diminished when it's traded around. So the only reason why Sami Zayn's title reign feels a little bit diminished is for two reasons. Drew McIntyre already ran this, and then you had the Darby Allin thing not that long ago. Even though the Darby Allin thing and the Sami Zayn thing are so different, because even though you said they're similar, Darby had title defenses, right?
But
And so at the end of the day, we have to give him credit for those.
but Mario, it's not different because they're both doing what they were going to do anyway. This didn't change a thing. This was just a simple speed bump in what they were going to do. An unnecessary speed bump. This is like putting a speed bump when you pull into work right at the end of the exit. For
A
what
speed
fucking
bump at the
purpose
end of
is
the
this
freeway.
speed bump here? You know I'm going to go here. I have to stop here anyway. Why is there a speed bump here? It makes no fucking sense. And that's what this is. Now, I have one argument that you said that you don't like. If his you said his reign wouldn't have been this short, right? I disagree, Mario. If this match was to happen next week when Brock Lesnar was supposed to be there, do you think he'd still be the champion?
I do not know.
Okay, because they were gonna because just like the people originally thought, if it wasn't gonna be Punk, they were gonna send Brock out there to squash him. Especially,
Probably.
let me add this: had let's say Oba didn't even pick what he wanted to do, and Sammy needed an opponent tonight, and Brock was there. What do you think they were doing?
Yeah, sure. I
Brock's
agree.
gonna go out there and squash him.
And squash
At
him,
least,
sure.
at least Punk gave him a match.
There you
There
go.
you go.
There it is again. See,
That's-
so
That's the only silver lining in this, though. Punk gave
but
him a
it's the biggest silver lining, though, Matt, because you asked, why would this speed bump make sense? And I'll be honest, up until you giving me the answer, I couldn't really come up with one, but you just gave me the answer. And that is the answer, is that Punk came off of a title loss in the biggest stage, right? So at the end of the day, he couldn't have another Jey Uso title win, right? Because that was just the most limp dick moment, I think, in CM Punk's illustrious career. This was a good match. Dare I say, a great match.
Yes.
You were sports entertained. I was sports entertained. Mex was sports entertained. And here's the other part. They had some pretty good near finishes. It was a good match. And so at the end of the day, what you've done successfully, at the very least, is you've used Sami as a catapult for CM Punk in a position where how many other guys could have done it? How many other guys would have done it? You go up to Drew McIntyre or somebody, or you go up to like Jacob Fatu and tell him to do the job for
Mario.
Punk after he's just coming back. He's going to show up randomly from the parking lot off the couch and beat me. Only Sammy does that job.
No, Mario. If I walked up to Austin Theory tonight and said, "Hey, we're gonna make you the WWE champion, but Brock Lesnar's gonna come out Friday and beat the shit out of you, but you're gonna be a WWE champion," do you think he says no?
I think he says no. Yeah, I think he says no.
You think he says no to becoming a WWE champion?
No, okay, I guess not. You're probably right.
You're gonna make him the that's what I'm saying. That's a name right there. You don't think,
Yeah.
hey Penta, we'll make you the WWE champion for 24 fucking hours, but you're gonna get beat the next night. You think he says no?
Okay, he probably doesn't say no, but again, it
Dom.
goes back to why
Hey,
this
here's a
makes sense.
respectful
Go ahead,
name.
my bad.
Not Dom. Hey Ray, we're gonna make you the WWE champion for 1 fucking hour. But you're gonna get beat by John Cena to further the story with him and CM Punk. Is that okay? You know what Rey Mysterio said? Absolutely, that's fine. Because he's gonna be
Sure.
remembered as a WWE champion.
So again, the entire argument is the rationality of it, right? Or how it makes sense. And you keep plugging in the pieces for why
Right.
it makes sense. You're telling
Now,
me here, Sammy is not the money guy.
I'm
He's
telling
equal
you,
parts not the money guy and equal parts the ability to put out a star effort.
no,
And that's what you needed in that moment, right? You don't want to bury Dom. You don't want to bury Penta. You've already done a good enough job burying Oba and Breaker. So at the end of the day, who's the guy that can take a loss that doesn't hurt our pockets or our future, and at the same time has a believability to him and can propel the WWE champion forward to SummerSlam? Sammy answers all those questions. In fact, it almost feels like you know it subconsciously because you keep putting these places in peace that suggest only Sammy, maybe Finn Balor, is the only other person I could see having all the professional qualities that it would take to be able to run this 9-day title reign. I would argue this Sami Zayn 9-day title reign was much more difficult for the champion than Roman Reigns fucking, year long just beating everybody's ass all the time. That's easy stuff to tell. That's easy to do. Try to send a guy that nobody thought should be the champion into a match with a guy that everybody wants to be the champion and make it mean something. That's what Sammy did last night. I don't think you can end this show without giving him enough, maybe not gratitude, but at least respect for the ability to go out there and produce something that you enjoyed, knowing you hated it from the moment it started.
Now, I'm helping you with your point because I'm about to give you my point here. The main thing that was said, right? And that the main thing that Alex pointed out, a title opportunity will fall out of the sky at any point, CM Punk said. Right? If Cody Rhodes simply wins clean at Night of Champions, he has no challenger for his title at SummerSlam because Oba Femi didn't pick anybody. And then you get the match with Seth. And if Cody Rhodes needs a challenger, guess what? He could naturally just wrestle CM Punk.
Yeah,
You see, hold on. You answer. I want you to realize how I completely eliminated that speed bump that is Sami Zayn and are doing what they were going to do anyway. They just reversed the roles so Cody could chase because Cody's better on the chase.
But you're see, this is what you're doing though. You're moving the goalpost in a way because the argument isn't could they have done something better. The argument isn't could they
unrational it was to put the belt on Sami who doesn't have it today.
Okay, because here's the problem, right? When you present it like that, again, it's like, yeah, I could have thought of a million. I mean, maybe not a million, but I could definitely think of things that would have probably been better to do, right? First of all, it probably would have been better just to have Oba challenge for the title. First of all, it would have been better for Oba to lose the King of the Ring and let Jey Uso or somebody else win it, but whatever, or Seth Rollins. All I'm saying is that what ended up taking place worked out in the end. There are other avenues they could have gone, but then we get into the weeds of trying to book these long moments and long bookings that we've had. I mean, some of these storylines have been going on since last year. So when
Mhm.
I think about how do you make Cody and CM Punk like meaningful, yes, there was a million more ways you could do it.
You don't have to make
But
it a
but
big match. That's huge. They've been teasing that
sure.
match since CM Punk came back.
And
That's a big match.
let me ask you this though. Is it the same big match if CM Punk stayed this whole time, Cody stayed this whole time, running the same shit they were doing? At the end of the day, fans were getting bored with Cody. Fans were getting bored with CM Punk. Introducing Sami as the champion gives it a little bit of a shakeup while still getting to the ultimate place. So if it was it a speed bump or was it a ramp to lift air under this program? I argue that you could call it a speed bump, but is it a speed bump if at the end of the day they use the momentum to take flight? And that's what has happened now. This
So
Cody Punk
because
match has taken flight. Lowe says this is the biggest match in SummerSlam.
Mario, when have you ever gained momentum from a speed bump?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it is a speed bump. I think what you're
No, no, no.
interpreting as a speed
Just
bump
that
is a ramp.
this is a speed bump. A speed bump is there to slow you down
Sure, fair,
so you can start completely over from zero and go back to speed. This is
fine,
what it
fair.
was. A
No, no,
speed.
no. That's fair.
We reset. CM Punk is now the champion. We don't know what Sami Zayn's gonna do. And to be fair, I wouldn't be sure if Sami Zayn doesn't get a Saturday night's main event rematch because Gunther obviously took out Cody Rhodes and he'll have to deal with that, so beforehand, right?
Yeah, no,
You would imagine.
that's a good point.
So who's to say?
Yeah. No, no, no. And that was one of my bigger problems with it, right? Was the Cody thing. Because here's the
Mhm.
thing, like, first of all, if you're gonna take Cody out like that, you should lay him out, right? Don't give us the optics of Cody like
Have
smashing around
Gunther
in the back,
smash the
like,
bus into his fucking bus.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so I look at it and I say, oh wow, this was unnecessary. A lot of it felt unnecessary. I don't know that Sammy is the crux of that lack of necessity. I think that ultimately, see, and here's the other thing: is Cody proving that he should be the guy that ultimately takes over for Triple H one day? And the only reason I suggest that is because all the different things that we've gotten, all the shakeups and the moments that we didn't expect have mostly come from Cody Rhodes' brain, right?
Mhm.
This is the guy that's like, guys, you've been telling this story with Drew for so long, right? Or you've been telling this story with Sammy for so long. Here's a guy in Cody who understands that you have to have a blend of let's chase the casual fans with these big matchups, but let's pay off the dedicated watchers that watch week to week, like us, like this community. And so I
So
think
you're saying
Cody is
you're
showing
saying
he could be
they
a
paid
really
you
good
off
booker one day.
they paid you off with a swerve you didn't expect for the sake of a swerve and then correct your course when it didn't
And
work.
you don't like that.
No.
And I can agree with that. I don't like a
They did it
swerve for
for
the
one
sake of
show.
swerves.
They did it for one show's sake. That was it.
Sure. That I can agree with, right? And so I guess the only point I'm really trying to make is that this could have been worse. That's really the only true point I want to make is that this could have been way, way worse. This could have set off Punk and Cody in a way that made zero sense,
Yeah.
right?
Worse than
And
Sami Zayn.
exactly, and impacted that. So listen, I think spirited debate for sure. I'm gonna let the audience and the commenters decide who won that one. But I definitely, because I know you don't have super long, I want to make sure that we get your opinion on the Maxine Dupree stuff. So, real quick, speaking of Austin Theory, he, the current champion of WWP, World Wrestling. Oh, look at me, dude. He's the worst. Breaker will be the WWE champion by the end of 2027, 2028. There's a reason they're saving him versus Oba.
I don't know, Alex, because
I don't know
we had
either,
this
man.
conversation. I don't think it was Night of Champions. And no, it was Night of Champions because he had the steel cage match. They saw something early in this year that let them know that he wasn't quite ready. And
Mm,
that's proven to
it's a
this
big
point,
comment.
especially by his loss to Seth. That's proven to this point. Because if it
Oh,
was the opposite, he would have beat Seth.
Okay, real quick, I gotta ask you about this then. So you are not of the belief that they just like mismanaged the booking. You are of the belief, which a lot of people have said. I mean, not a lot of people, but there have been a few people that have said this. You're of the belief that WWE saw something in him, or maybe something happened that was a botch or whatever.
It was the match
That
with Punk.
it was the match with Punk that shifted their love of him, or not their love, but they realized he wasn't ready. That's what you're saying.
It was that, and then he also got legitimately injured to a point. So, but for sure, because after that match with Punk, like look what he goes and does. He, you know, starts getting stomped on all the time. He gets eliminated first in the Royal Rumble at number 2. So and then to now, like I said, he hasn't really gained any momentum. He's a replacement tag champion. He's kind of, I wouldn't even say fully back burnered, but he's been cooled off to a point. He's simmering. I don't know what you do with Braun, and this is why I feel like before I get off, like I was telling you yesterday, and I was telling you over text that the roster needs a shakeup. They need to move a lot of guys around because I don't want to say they called Braun Breaker up too late, but it's hard not to see that he was in NXT a little too long. So there was a sweet window for him right before that stuff with Baron Corbin, maybe a little after he started the badass gimmick, where he was ready and primed to do something Oba like right now. But like I said at the beginning of this year, he showed them something they didn't like, and they flipped to Oba because Oba is taking the baton and he's running with it, brother. He's gone. He's taking off, and they're gonna strap the rocket to that dude. And that's the other thing that a lot of people need to figure out is when does he get his match?
Oof. Yeah.
That's the thing.
I need that. I need that because until we get that, it's just dumb, right? It's just dumb. Okay, listen, before you go, I want to ask you your opinion on Maxine Dupree real quick.
Mm.
Her and Austin Theory had been having a lot of backstage
Yeah.
vignettes and stuff. Yeah. And so and so last night she helped Austin Theory and Breaker win back the titles. And what was really, really good about this entire thing was that Paul Heyman, before they went out to challenge for the belt, said, "Bring me back the gold or don't come back at all." And that ultimatum changed the entire dynamics right now of the vision. So what did you think of the Maxine Dupree stuff? Where do you think it's headed? And give us your overall take on that segment in the booking.
I thought it had Paul Heyman written all over it.
Yeah.
Think of Tammy Sitch in ECW, bro. Because this was the exact same thing. The fan favorite turns on him, aligns with the bad guys. Hope, and I really hope that this doesn't end with Otis and Tozawa beating
Oof.
Braun Breaker and Austin Theory for the world tag titles at some point.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that.
Because I don't see, because she did the thing, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, where she kind of like shoot him off, right? You know, separated herself. She's wearing dark colors. They're like, "Yo, what's going on?" She's like, "Back up off me." She's been in the back seat of the cars. And then also, like, Paul Heyman loves himself like a weird love angle for some reason. He's always been that way. But I think this is a good use of her because she's always been. She's a manager that can kind of wrestle, that can have a match, and
Well
that you
said.
can have a payoff to somebody get one over on her. And maybe they continue to just dominate until Bianca Belair is ready and the Street Profits get the belts back with a
Yeah.
trio match with Bianca and the Profits taking on the Vision. Who knows? Because again, like you don't know, it could be anybody. Because obviously, I asked this on my live, right? And then I got my answer because I said, what happens with Sami when a Drew McIntyre comes back, when a CM Punk comes back, when Brock Lesnar comes back, when Oba Fem is ready? Who knows? What does the landscape of the women's division look like when a Naomi comes back, a Bianca comes back, a Rhea Ripley comes back fully healthy, when Blake Monroe is established? Who knows? But I feel like a payoff there could work because you could use Division against the Usos and Naomi, or you could go like I said, Street Profits and Bianca. Either one works to me, but you gotta have that filter on Paul Heyman and not let him lose focus on what the whole direction is because he can get
Mm,
kind of wonky and weird, and you'll not want to see any more of it.
word, word. Great take. I do want to ask you real quick though. Street Profits, what happens to them? Are they do okay? Let me ask you like this:
Hmm.
do you think they see Montez Ford and or Dawkins as potential future money players? Like
No,
what we say Sammy isn't. No, you don't think they see them as
I
that.
think they took a pay cut to stay in the tag team division.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Montez Ford sure has a deal because Bianca Belair is one of the biggest women's stars they have.
Yes. Great point. Great point. Yeah.
So
That's unfortunate for me. I thought the Street Profits were this time around. This return was going to be the run. It doesn't look like it though.
I think
But
the Street Profits to me have just worn on too long, bro, and it's time. It had been due time for them to do something else.
hell
Both of
yeah. No, I agree. Listen, Matt, appreciate you jumping on, man. You going live later tonight after work or no?
them. Nah, I will probably be live tomorrow on the YouTube channel as we will break down the UFC this weekend.
Hell yeah.
Conor McGregor's back against Max Holloway. You got Patty Pimlet on the undercard.
Oh, I can't wait to find out what your picks are.
Yeah, but because we're making heavy debates. We're not gonna put a parlay out per take, but we're gonna give you our thoughts on what we might be doing. Because obviously the big angle is Conor McGregor has been out 5 years out of the octagon on top of a horrific leg injury. Max Holloway, however you see it, is also coming off being knocked out and moving to 170 pounds.
Yep.
It's going to be a stand up fight like Conor wants, but if Max Holloway has the brain like we think he does, he should go after the leg kicks and Conor's boxing stance. But we'll break that down and much more tomorrow.
Great
YouTube.com,
early breakdown though. Hell yeah.
YouTube.com/, talking about radio. Same thing on TikTok. We've been live in the mornings, so keep your eyes out on that.
Hell yeah. You're doing good numbers over there. Champ. Yo, by the way, make sure you go subscribe. Talking about radio with Matt Garces. Go to his TikTok. He's been going live on TikTok. The numbers have been pretty good. Really good actually. And so, a lot of engagement he's been getting. All right. Alex said, if I'm correct on Polymarket / Kashi Obafemi is the current favorite to win the 2027 Royal Rumble. I think I heard that too. I think my brother told me, or my cousin, somebody told me the same thing. I think you're right. And that makes sense, but does it also make sense, right? Because it's like he has a championship match. And so it's like, does he lose before the end of the year only to win the Rumble? Does he win it at the Rumble? Like, I don't know. It's confusing though. Max said, is Conor back though? And that's the big question. Is Conor McGregor back? We're going to talk about that as soon as we finish up the Raw recap. Let's just go over a few of the last tidbits that I wanted to go over. So first of all, I really want to talk about the Maxine Dupree stuff. Matt gave his take, and very good take, but I want to mention this real quick. Look, I love me some messy wrestling relationship stuff, right? Goes back to the Randy Savage Miss Elizabeth stuff. I love it, right? I love the sensational Sherry and Shawn Michaels stuff from back in the day. Edge and Lita went a little far for my taste, but it's all fair in love and wrestling, right? However, I just don't think they did. I think they pulled the trigger way too soon. I'll be honest. And it's funny because they did and they didn't, right? First of all, they allowed innuendo to carry the Austin Theory Maxine Dupree narrative. We had never seen them interact in a way that was verbal, communicate with each other in a way that happened on TV as an actual byproduct of them being a part of a segment. They were never segmented. They were always strategically placed in the back to give us the um, feeling that they were, starting to gravitate towards one another. And so they took so long that by the time Chad Gable came back, they didn't realize they had this like, little triangle of love, I guess, that they could capitalize on. Um, I think it could have been a very fun program, even if it was short, to have basically like Chad and Austin Theory competing for maybe not the love of Maxine Dupree, but more like, for her purity. That sounds weird. That sounds weird. Uh like for her like sake of being pulled into evil and good, right? So Chad represents like good and Austin Theory represents bad, and Maxine Dupree is like, I don't know which way to go. That narrative I think would have worked. And you could have even like led to a, Gable Theory match, probably end up being like way too long. But the fact that they just went and did it the way they did it suggests to me that they're not going to have Chad Gable play this role, and more it's going to be like just this, feud that they have. What it does to the story, I don't know. I don't know, because if you're Chad Gable, do you feel like you pushed Maxine Dupree to the dark side? Because then if you do, I can see him trying to like fight for her back, I guess, in a way. Um, I don't know. I don't think you do any of those things, because if you continue to play the narrative, then you risk having to use Tozawa and Otis at some point. Whereas if you just pair Maxine Dupree with Austin Theory as a new, lethal couple, uh, at the very least, there's not another one, right? Because Liv and Dom, they don't exist like that anymore. So most of the community thinks Triple H and Shawn like to rib real life relationships through booking. 90s prank humor circa Sonny and Shawn back in the day. Yeah, I've heard that narrative before. I don't know how true it is, but it does seem to have like there you could definitely show the timeline and of certain programs, and you could say, "Oh yeah, they seem to like to rib couples like, what they did with that Lana and Rusev and Bobby Lashley stuff like we talked about yesterday. That was also a little too far for me. But it is what it is. But anyway, I do think that the Street Profits are in a bit of a no man's land here. Uh, Now Matt has suggested long before today that he believed the Street Profits were among some of the talent that took a pay cut willingly to stay in the company. If that's true, and even if it isn't true, uh, they're in a weird place, right? I think that you are in LA Knight territory where there's this idea that a push will come without the actual push ever actually coming. And it's worse for the Street Profits because with LA Knight, you could argue that his age limits how much they're willing to push him. In fact, he used that um, as a part of his program last night. He said something along the lines to Seth, like, I'm good enough to beat you. Yeah, you have more championships than me. And at my age, there's a good likelihood I'm not going to catch up. Something like that. And I like that. I like that because he's being honest, right? He's being honest and he's talking about the things that we talk about on this program. Can LA Knight be somebody that the WWE trusts to not just hold the world title, but to actually be a money guy? Like people are saying Sammy's not. Uh, it's hard. It's hard to say. It really is. All I know is I thought Montez Ford was on that trajectory. I thought Montez Ford was heading towards a potential meaningful singles run. And that could still be the case. It's just that WWE has to understand you can't tell a story about a lame one Monday and then the next Monday try to tell another story with that same lame, but have us react like he's not lame. That's just it's not doable. You know what I mean? It's like trying to make a world champion out of Doink the Clown as opposed to taking the wrestler of Doink out of the makeup and repackaging him into something else. Um, I don't know. I just but here's the thing. I do want to say this. Paul Heyman's uh ultimatum to the Vision, very, very compelling stuff. I very much like it. It's not where we were headed with the Vision. It's not where I thought this was going. And I don't think that they've done a very good job managing Breaker. I do agree with Alex. I think Breaker's the kind of guy. I don't know if I'd call him a made guy yet, but he's certainly a talent that, as long as he hangs on, I think he'll get there at some point. But when he gets there, are we still going to see him the same? Right? Matt sent me this clip of Meltzer talking about Sami Zayn not being the money guy, right? And that being the reason he was never heading into SummerSlam with the world title. And so if that's the case, right? And it's the money guys that they see as, the future world champions. Can Breaker still be a money guy going another year with this kind of booking? I'm not saying he can't. I am saying it's a lot harder, right? Like, imagine Obafemi just gets like squashed to Lesnar, and then the next 3 months go by and he just loses. And then January comes and he wins the Rumble, and then they try to make him this unstoppable force like he was 6 months before. You can't do that, right? You could try, but like it's like comedy acts. Like, once you go comedy, it's kind of no coming back. Like, Kane went comedy and he never came back as the monster. Nobody ever saw him that way. Like, not ever again, And so you can't ruin characters, or not ruin. You can't navigate characters through troubled waters and then expect them to just coast when the storm's done, right? Because when the storm's done, they're still us and we remember. So I don't know. I do like where the Paul Heyman stuff is going. But it severely cuts the nuts off of Braun Breaker. I mean, yesterday he just looked like a lame, honestly. Paul bitching them out in the back. Like, we talked about this yesterday. Like, who remembers the narrative that began this whole thing, right? Where Breaker turns on Seth and then Paul is basically like kidnapped to be their wise man. He was scared of Breaker. He was intimidated by Breaker, so much so that he became a willing participant in his growth. And now we exist here today, and it feels like Paul has all the power in that relationship. It feels like Paul has become the main character of that faction, where before the main character wasn't a single wrestler. It was the idea that the Vision was the future. That was the character, right? Logan Paul, Austin Theory, Breaker, um, Bronson Reed. All these guys represented the future. Now, today, after last week and after the last several months, the Vision is like this group that's barely hanging on. I mean, remember last year, this group dominated Raw week after week after week, right? For every week that they were beaten up on Raw, they had 4 or 5 weeks where they were beating up everyone else. And now I don't even think they're as cool as the Judgment Day anymore. And that's a really, really far bar to fall down. They just did that with that lame Sami, Mario. Yeah, no, exactly. But with Sami, the idea of him being a lame was already there, right? And Mex, you're one of the people who constantly remind us that, he took a fucking bump from Wee Man, and that those are the kinds of things that WWE fans won't forget. And that's a reason why a lot of y'all did not see Sami as a world champion. And Breaker's not even close to that yet. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that the momentum's done. In order for him to be considered a viable challenger again, he's going to have to reclaim that momentum. How do you do that? I mean, there's plenty of ways to do it. I'm just saying, like, when do you do that? Right? Because you have to have him in like some sort of main picture, right? Some sort of program with stakes. He loses to Seth. Where is the next avenue at for Breaker? Where's the next program? Because as it stands, he's the big E of the vision. He's just the third guy that they stick in. He's the Xavier Woods, who it's like, oh, Big E's not feeling good today. I'll step in. Oh, Kofi's not here. He got trapped with snow in Pittsburgh. Well, I'll wrestle for the tag titles tonight. He's like an afterthought, right? And this is a guy who fucking destroyed Seth. Yeah, it was a fall far. But moving on, we talked about the number one contenders 7-man gauntlet match. I'm so excited for this next week. I really, really am. I don't know who's gonna win, and that is why I love this the most. That is why this makes me feel so much more excited. Now, I know Dragon Lee's not gonna win, so we can take him out. Rusev's not gonna win, and if he does, we riot. If I had to take out another person, I don't know if it would be Ethan Page or if it would be Joe Hendry. I'm going to take out Joe Hendry, though. I think Ethan Page has shown he's doing really good work. And I think Joe Hendry is basically the WWE version of Gangnam Style or the Macarena or Soldier Boy's Superman dance, right? It's like old. Doesn't mean it wasn't cool at one time. Doesn't mean it's not a funny reference. It just means that you're cooking with 2-year-old oil. You're using vegetable oil that was used several times in the last year. And I don't think that's a way to actually promote. But that said, this match has everything. There are connected subplots, right? So, for example, Dragon Lee and Chad Gable beef for a really long time. Now they're starting to kind of trust each other, forming a bond. Dominic Mysterio, they're representing a crux for all luchadors. So, obviously, he's going to have a problem with both those guys. Ethan Page and Rusev have been constantly causing mayhem for the luchadors and Chad Gable. Javon Evans is another guy I don't expect to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Or I guess I would be a little surprised, but I would be less surprised than the others I mentioned. I don't know where we go. And part of the reason we don't know where we're going is because we don't know where does this number one contenders match land, right? Is it at MSG for the Saturday Night Main Event show? Is it at SummerSlam? Is it just going to happen on Raw or SmackDown since the WWE title happened on Raw? I don't know. All I know is that anyone that wins this match, except for Rusev, makes it an interesting program with Penta. My only fear is that whoever wins, specifically a face, like Chad Gable or Dragon Lee or Evans, is only going to be a single match that leads to another program with Penta, right? Because they're not going to have two faces enter into a long running IC title feud, right? Because that's the way they utilize the US title, with back and forth feuds that last like fucking months. I feel like we'll find out Friday or next Monday if Solo and Knight versus the Usos is the match. I feel it coming after Jimmy kicking him last night. Yeah, that's another aspect of Raw that was both interesting and dull as hell. It's this point, like, you can't send LA Knight out there week after week appearing to be something and then looking like a lame, and then send him out the very next week and expect us to react like he is equal parts Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns or their peers in the ring. I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying he hasn't been built to look like that. In fact, it feels like WWE has gone out of their way to show his ineptness, because you had the Unreal season 2 stuff where Triple H basically scolded him like a little bro, right? And he wasn't happy about this narrative. And yet we still are here where it's like, is he the guy? Could he be the guy? Nope, not today, right? And so I don't know how much longer you can deal with that. However, the fact that we are getting, Solo helping LA Knight, and because it's interesting, because I don't know what's going to happen. Because in any other regard, we'd be saying LA Knight and Solo are going to team up, or they're going to, join forces. But that would represent a complete breakdown in either guy's character. For LA Knight to join Solo is to completely wash away everything you've done with LA Knight. For Solo to join LA Knight is even worse. So how do they make the link up? How do they make it work? Because it's a weird position having Solo be a heel when in reality he's the one being fucked with, right? Roman, Jacob, everybody keeps going over to a show that they don't belong and trying to entice Solo to join their forces. He's reluctant. That makes him the face in this situation, right? That makes Roman and Jacob the heels in this situation. So again, I have no idea where it goes, and that's why I think it's exciting. That's literally been my issue. The fucking gingerbread man won the title. Yeah, you're not happy. Braun just has to worry about Zilla getting the keys to the castle. Not next year, not 2028, but it will come fast. A lot of people are saying that Zilla Fatu is going to have this very quick road to the title. I don't know if that's the case. But I will say that, wait, where the fuck did this go? No, that wasn't it. Where the freak is the thing that I got? These are literally none of them. Oh, here we go. Okay, whatever. So, Alex said, once Braun Breaker spears Heyman, he'll be instantly over as a top guy again. I love it. I love it. That is exactly what I want. He needs, but here's the other part though. Like, Paul's taken so many big bumps, dude. Like, should we really expect him? He did take that spear from Breaker already on accident. But I do agree. I think that the moment Breaker's like, you know what, dude, I'm tired of listening to you. Like, what have you gotten me? You've gotten me nowhere. You've gotten me nothing. I picked you as my advisor. You didn't pick me. Don't forget, I could put you in the ground anytime I want. That's the kind of shit I want from Breaker, and if that leads to Paul Heyman getting speared, that's even better. So anyway, let's finish off with this. The Judgment Day direction feels terrible, almost as lost as the Vision does. First of all, does anybody remember that Dom is the mega champion for AAA? How about this? Does anybody remember Liv Morgan's the actual world champion on the Red brand? And yet you have JD McDonough, who came back after an injury at the Raw Netflix anniversary show, to come back and tear it up. He had been awesome. Now you haven't used him since Finn Balor shit, and the momentum that was already dying down has completely subsided. So you send him in there with Danhausen. Okay. Last night, JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio had a vignette where they were calling out Danhausen. And they were saying, return the money, blah, 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 all this stuff that, doesn't make any sense to me. Where this is going, I have no clue. But I'm not of the assumption that they're planning anything real with Danhausen. That said, I believe they should. Here's my biggest problem, and I'm going to steal Mex's booking. This is Mex's booking. I'll give him full credit for this. He has made me a believer. Let me tell y'all something. The WWE would be actually stupid. Actually stupid. It would be an actual fail. Not my opinion, not a truth that I believe, but as close to a fact as you could be without actually being a fact, that WWE would be making a mistake not capitalizing on the Danhausen Knicks stuff. Now, I guess you got a Knicks jersey with Danhausen's name on the back of it, and you had a few social media things. But at the end of the day, you're going to be in Madison Square fucking Garden. Brunson's going to be there. We know that, right? We know he's going to be there. If he's not there, that's going to be crazy, but he's going to be there. The idea that Danhausen cursed and uncursed the New York Knicks to an NBA championship is the kind of storyline that you should capitalize on. And to have the optics of maybe not Penta, let's say Trick Williams. Honestly, nobody works right now. They'd have to get the title off of somebody to even put it on Danhausen. But having a title belt on the line where Brunson and or a handful of Knick players give you one of these on camera to, let's just say, Trick Williams for now, because I can't think of any other champion that would make sense, and he doesn't either, but whatever. And Trick Williams gets cursed by the New York Knicks, and then the Knicks pay off Danhausen's title win. It just writes itself. Like, you can't tell me that part of the reason that Sami Zayn was booked to win the title was because it made sense where it was in Saudi, and then blow off the idea that somehow Danhausen's title win wouldn't make any sense. Again, I'm not saying it should be a long title reign. I'm not saying Danhausen's a money guy. I'm not saying Danhausen even should be like a champion, like, really. What I am saying is that if you are a company that is looking to capitalize off of moments, you have not had a bigger moment on the world stage of sports than Danhausen and his storyline with the New York Knicks. Bringing real life storylines to the squared circle almost never fails. In fact, it usually ramps up the entire company. And there's a long history of that. When you look at Mike Tyson's usage in the company, even Donald Trump's usage in the company before he was president. So you can look at all that and you could say, hey, there's something we could take advantage of here. Will they do it? No, of course not. That said, it would be, man, I'll tell you what, nothing else is going to make the sports pages as it relates to Madison Square Garden's show, right? ESPN will do their obligatory coverage, right? But for the most part, no real sports, anybody that covers sports at a major level isn't going to be covering Saturday Night Main Events, right? Maybe SummerSlam, but not Saturday Night Main Events. If you want the entire world talking about what happened at your wrestling show, then the best way to do it is to pay off Danhausen. And I get it. I get it. It's a difficult character to make work. But you got into the business of Danhausen, right? You chose to do that. So make it make sense. And I think that would make a lot of sense. I'll remain patient about the Judgment Day because I feel like us and a great segment of fans will miss them when they are gone. All roads lead to Liv put Roxy over to end the Judgment Day anthology. Yeah, that is probably what ends up happening. I'll say this. I already agree with you because I already missed the Judgment Day and what they used to be. They still have all the pieces there to make it work, right? It's not like they're broken or they're ruined or anything like that. It's just more of they're stalled out. The same storyline that they've been on, the same program they've been on, right? Drama within the Judgment Day has only ever changed the characters in which are combative. It has never changed the narrative, though. Judgment Day has always been a group of people that just fake get along, especially the women in the in the faction. So I don't know, dude. I already miss what the Judgment Day used to be, and I very much enjoy all the wrestlers in the Judgment Day. Like, I'm a fan of Dom. I'm a very big fan of JD. Liv has always been somebody who I believe in as a top female wrestler. And then you look at the rest of the class. I mean, Rhea was awesome. Obviously Priest has had his moments. And so, yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, though. Let's see. All right. So, Money in the Bank's coming up. And I wanted to ask who should be a front runner for the Money in the Bank. I'm going to assume names like Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, the top names that we have right now won't be, a part of that. Obviously, Obafemi already has his title match, so he's out. Braun Breaker would have been somebody I would have thought of maybe like 3 months ago, certainly at the beginning of this year. But I no longer feel like I don't think they could create the right momentum for Breaker that would lead to Money in the Bank making sense for him to win. I don't think they have enough time with the shows that they have left, right? That said, it's never really like a thing you have to build towards, right? It's like put him in the match, he wins, he wins. I mean, Brock Lesnar won the Money in the Bank. He wasn't even in the fucking match. This is, I think, going to be one of the most exciting Money in the Banks ever because there are so many wrestlers right now in WWE that are on the verge of that next level. And the reason why Money in the Bank, I think, okay, so you talk about Money in the Bank versus Royal Rumble, which one's better, which one's worse? Royal Rumble is the more illustrious event. The continuity can't be beat as it relates to Royal Rumble winners getting a shot at WrestleMania. That said, the Money in the Bank has its pros in that you can push people. Like, you can't have someone win the Royal Rumble that isn't a potential money guy, right? Or somebody you're not willing to take a gamble on, right? You're never going to have Danhausen or fucking JD McDonough win the Royal Rumble, right? But with the Money in the Bank, it's different. The Money in the Bank can be won by a superstar that doesn't present as a top superstar or a wrestler who isn't considered a top money guy. In fact, we've seen in years where guys like Otis won and they just revamped the nature of the title, right? He ended up challenging for the tag titles like a big oaf. So you can add more names to the potential Money in the Bank winner than you can with the Royal Rumble. There are 30 people in the Rumble, and yet only like 5% of them maybe are actual like potential winners. With the Money in the Bank, it's different because there are less people. But if we consider the Money in the Bank to have started after SummerSlam, then the window is wide open because anybody can be in it. You can put a Javon Evans in it. You could put a Chad Gable in it. You could put a Seth Rollins in it. You could put a Braun Breaker in it. This is the match, like Royal Rumble, where you can have the top stars versus the not top stars. And they can intermingle with the idea that any one of them can win. But that's not true with the Royal Rumble. It is true with the Money in the Bank. And again, it's because the Royal Rumble, you win, you're going to maybe not main event WrestleMania anymore, but you're certainly going to be a major part of that promotion. So you have to exist in a way that is commercially viable. As it relates to Money in the Bank, you can have that cashed in at any time. So you don't have to be a top star. You don't have to be somebody with an immense amount of momentum. In fact, you can win the Money in the Bank and worry about the championship momentum later on. That's the beauty of the Money in the Bank. I couldn't even tell you. Couldn't even tell you. One guess right now. No way. I think I would like to have Javon Evans win, though. I'll be honest. Here's the thing. There's no rule that says cashing in the Money in the Bank has to be a win, right? He can cash in, he can lose. There's so many ways you could protect him, but him being linked as the number one contender in the way that the Money in the Bank produces a number one contender, he will have had an amazing show, right? He will have had a performance that makes me feel like he's actually earned the number one contender spot. So it could be, it could be good. LA Knight is obvious favorite. As for women, it's either JC Jane or Blake Monroe. Oof, I love those. First of all, LA Knight, I think, is a obvious favorite amongst the favorites. I would certainly not call him the favorite to win right now, specifically, only because he's been the perpetual bubble guy, right? This is the guy that you can keep on the verge of almost winning, and it works for his character. So they could stall him out again. At the same time, pulling the trigger on LA Knight now feels like, it could happen, especially because it's like that whole promo last night with LA Knight and Seth Rollins just made zero sense to me. Like, you're LA Knight, you came out to challenge for the world title against the guy that doesn't have the world title. You came out to tell the guy that doesn't have it that you're next. Why? Why didn't you just go after Roman? Why didn't you show up last week? Like, inserting LA Knight into this moment makes me believe that they do have some sort of intention of pairing him with the world champion, whoever that may be after SummerSlam. I think he's ready for sure. I don't know if WWE thinks he's ready. So I guess we'll see. Dark Horse is Randy Orton. I love that pick, actually. I love that pick. That would be dope. Randy Orton coming back as not just not surprise, like they didn't know, but like coming in out of nowhere, right? To qualify. I don't know if it's better on night one, like he's the first qualifier, or if he's the last qualifier. Because like you have him first and you can like fantasy book the rest of the promotion. But if he does it last, then it's like this infusion of top stars into the match, which makes you feel like the winner could emerge as a top star, which, probably not likely, but it could happen. Hey, like the black kid on Angels in the Outfield, it could happen. So let's see. Okay. So that does it for the wrestling stuff. We are going to, as I said, come back on Twitch a little bit later. As far as the weekend fights, there's only one. The UFC. Ultimate Fighting Championship 329. So this is the UFC 329 card, and it's going to be main evented by Conor McGregor, 22-6, against Max Holloway, 27-9. And then the co-main event is a lightweight match between Benoit St. Denis and Paddy Pimblett. Now, the fight that I think could steal the show this weekend is actually the bantamweight fight between Corey Sandhagen and Mario Batista. Those two have styles that I believe could make for bangers. I'm looking for that fight to possibly steal the show. But this is a good card. This is a very good card. Brandon Royval on the undercard fighting Kavanaugh. Brandon Royval, this will be his first time fighting since he made I don't think they were controversial, but other people have deemed his words controversial when he talked about the UFC White House stuff. So it'll be interesting to see him fight. Wait. There's somebody else on the card. Who else is on the card? There was another fight I was looking forward to. Oh, there. King Green is fighting Terrence McKinney. This is going to be a very good match, too. Green can come in sometimes a little behind the 8 ball, and that can at times lead him to a fight script that is neither beneficial for him nor exciting for fans. That said, I think McKinney's the kind of guy who Green will want to try to push back on. So that could be a very good fight too. Maybe not like an awesome fight like bell to bell, but certainly it could be one of the better finishes of the night. That said, we will do our full breakdown tomorrow. I want to remind everybody who may have forgotten, we are live now on Wednesdays, but it's also podcast day. So we'll be recording podcast off air and then publishing the next day. So you'll get like a bonus infighting FX for the week. Yeah. So we will go over our picks and the card as matchups tomorrow during the live, but we will get into the most details on the podcast, which will be published on Thursday. And that will have my picks, that will have basically everything else that we're looking for. But remember, there is no big boxing this weekend. I think Joe Joyce fights off TV somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe that's next week. But either way, no big boxing matches, no big wrestling cards. This is a UFC/MMA week, and I'm here for it. Conor McGregor, I'm sure, will provide us some very exciting things to talk about tomorrow during the presser, or Thursday during the final presser, or Friday during the weigh-in, but we'll see. But the final topic I want to talk about, real quick, let me see. Alex said, under the radar fight in Russia on Saturday, Murat Gassiev is fighting a fill-in opponent while Joe Joyce fights an undefeated Russian heavyweight. But it's not on TV though, right? I mean, okay, for guys like us, we can find it, but it's not on DAZN, it's not on anything, right, that we can easily access. I'm assuming, right? Because I haven't seen any TV for it. That doesn't mean that somebody won't pick it up last minute. This is what I miss about old boxing, right? And I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, I promise. A lot of people are tired of the TKO talk at this point, and I get that. That said, though, I do feel like the current landscape has made it way more difficult for boxing to be on TV. Back in the day, I say back in the day, it was like 5-10 years ago. There was, okay, so like you'd have HBO, Showtime, right? And they had all the big fights. And then like Friday night fights and Showbox and Boxing After Dark, they would have like the medium fights, right? But ESPN Plus, when it like launched as an app, they started buying fights like the week of. So there would be like fights like Joe Joyce or like Kinshiro, or Japanese fights, whatever. Fighters that are highly ranked in boxing, but they have zero, almost no American recognition or commercial viability outside of their home country. So when you have that be the case, ESPN would say, let's take advantage of that market. We'll buy the fight and we'll show it with their people. Then ESPN started getting a little more aggressive with their coverage, and then they started having the foreign fights that they would buy the week of or the week before, and then they would provide commentary at home. So they would be watching like Tim Bradley or whoever, right? They'd be watching the fight on a monitor at a studio doing the commentary. So it just gave us the opportunity to have fights picked up at the last minute. And that's like not something that boxing provides for us as much anymore. And it's really unfortunate. I hope Joe Joyce is somebody I'm able to see fight this weekend. I'm not going to hold my breath. LeBron likely going to the Heat. Thoughts? This is a statement you're making, or is this what reports are suggesting? Because I'll be honest, I did not think he was going to go to the Heat. I saw a lot of fans making the play for him to go to the Heat in Miami. I don't know if y'all heard, but supposedly a CNN reporter got in trouble. Or I don't know if he got in trouble, but they it was a small controversy. because last week or whatever the announcement that he wasn't going to go back to Lakers happened, uh they did the story, and at the very end of the segment, this CNN news reporter basically made like an open plea for LeBron to go to the Heat, and that started like a lot of people like, oh, I'll buy you a car, or we'll name our kid after you, like all this crazy stuff that people were saying in Miami to get him to go. I think the Cleveland uh rumors were a little blown up. uh I don't think they have the structure. I don't think their team is structured right now to be able to make the most out of a LeBron James return. I don't know though. I can't see him being the piece missing in Miami for them to be even like world playoff contenders, let alone world champ contenders. Um so yeah, that's that's something right there that I'm gonna say. But look, I want to talk real quick about this. So next week, actually, I'm gonna try to start this week for next week. But next week we're going to have a pre-recorded show that I'm gonna publish on YouTube. Uh, this is gonna be the first show that we do of this kind, and I'm going to make it a priority to try to do these uh once a week. So what we're gonna do is every big PLE coming up. So for example, SummerSlam, we are gonna do a watch along for some of my favorite SummerSlams and some of y'all's favorite SummerSlams. So I'll be looking for suggestions of which SummerSlams you'd want to rewatch, maybe just matches, maybe just segments. Um, as it stands right now, the first one that we're gonna do is going to be the SummerSlam 1994 Undertaker versus Undertaker. And the reason we're going to do that is there's a lot of fun aspects to it. But the way this is going to work is these will not be live. These will be pre-recorded podcasts. However, for the wrenches and the most committed community members, these are the people like Alex, like Lowe, like Bruce, like obviously Mex and Matt. um these people will have access to the link to watch the show. Again, it won't be live on any platforms because they would suspend us, but you will be able to have access to the show as a community member. So it can only I think I can only have 20 people watching live, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a little less, but mm, we're gonna work it so that basically I could record, have people watching, and then take calls. So like if anybody's on there and wants to call in on a match or whatever. So anyway, we're gonna start considering which Summer Slams would be the most like iconic to do. So let me see. So just a quick chat GPT or AI search. Um, they say AI suggests SummerSlam 2002. It was widely considered the absolute greatest pay-per-view in WWE history. Calm the fuck down. Shawn Michaels returns in his first match in over 4 years. Michaels battled Triple H in a brutal, critically acclaimed, unsanctioned street fight. I remember that. That was actually a really good match. Main event, a 25-year-old Brock Lesnar defeated The Rock to win the undisputed WWE Championship, officially crowning a new next big thing. They also have SummerSlam 2013 as a potential watch. It happened at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, and it had a stellar main event story with Daniel Bryan taking on John Cena, Bryan defeated Cena in a grueling back and forth match to win the WWE Championship, with special guest referee Triple H counting the pin. The betrayal. Immediately following Bryan's massive victory, Triple H shockingly pedigreed him, paving the way for Randy Orton to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase and kick off the Authority storyline. Wow, that was actually a huge moment. I don't remember SummerSlam 2020 or 2013 being that big. And then that's when Lesnar and Punk had their no DQ match. SummerSlam 2011, the main event, CM Punk defeated John Cena to become the undisputed champion, a highly celebrated contest, though Alberto Del Rio cashed in the briefcase right after to take the title. The underdog story. Christian and Randy Orton clashed in a brutal no-holds-barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship, capping off an intense summer rivalry. Now, I'll be honest, this is the one I wanted to do first, but I knew all of y'all were going to talk shit, so I decided not to. But I think I will do it at some point in the next few weeks. Because when is, so it's like August 2nd, right? And 3rd, something like that. So I have like the ability to do 4 of them, I think. Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm really looking forward to the Money in the Bank watch alongs. But, here's the thing. I want them to be fun, right? I want them to be historically relevant. But more than anything, I just wanted it to be entertaining, right? I'm an old school content creator, right? Technically, I've been around for a very long time. And what I can tell you is some of my favorite content as it relates to wrestling and or combat sports has been since the beginning of YouTube, British fans making fun of wrestling, doing the watch alongs. What was their names? Oh, fuck. What was their names? Who were the British guys that would do the watch alongs that got super popular? I don't remember their names. But anyway, those guys are hilarious. I started watching these Irish guys a while back too. They're fucking hilarious. It was about maybe 5-10 years ago. And then just recently, I found this new show online. Actually, I should plug them. I've been meaning to reach out to see if they wanted to do the show. Hey, shout out Jay Wood, man. Champ. Been a minute, champ. Shout out to James. Appreciate you tapping in, champ. You're the man for that. So the hell? Why is Michelle Joy Phelps just okay? Hey, shout out Elias, champ. Been a minute. Alex, champ. Shout out to Alex Acosta. Shout out to Oscar Vasquez, Maxine, Juwan. Appreciate you. Kyra, appreciate you. E5 Sigma. I don't know. I think that might be a bot. I'll take the bot follows though. Shout out to Ryan Velasquez. Shout out to Ian. Yo, I have not seen that. I haven't seen Champ in a long time. Damn. Shout out to Shaw. Shout out to Justin too. Damn, y'all really came through on fucking. Oh shit. Wow. Man, that was crazy, dude. So anyway, we'll get more into the weeds on this stuff. Like I said, I want it to be fun. Just like jokes, lighthearted, right? But I was saying I found these other guys. I think they're from Detroit. I think they're all from Detroit. I'll have their names ready for next time so I could plug them. But basically, all they do is watch old wrestling. I don't even think they cover new wrestling. Like, I don't think they do anything new. I know they watch the product because they'll talk about it from time to time. Like they'll compare things that are happening now to like something that happened on like a show they're watching from like the early 2000s or something. but they do Raw, they'll do pay-per-views and stuff like that. Man, they're just funny guys. They're just dudes that probably known each other for a while, I'm guessing. And yeah, they all kind of like play their roles. They all kind of have their own character. And it's just funny to go back and watch wrestling with a new perspective, right? Like seeing how funny shit was back then and like the WCW era, right? At the very end when it was god awful wrestling and it was the worst booking imaginable. There's something valuable, I think, there, right? All these years later, watching Buff Bagwell try to win a match where his mom was on a pole or some shit like that. Like, I don't know. I just think it's funny, but we'll get into that. We're gonna go ahead and end the show here. Excuse me. I will be back in a couple hours. We'll be on Twitch only, maybe YouTube too. And we'll be yeah, we'll just be streaming though. We'll be gaming. We'll probably run the UFC. I still have my 2-day pass that I can run. What else? Oh yeah. Oh, so okay, that was the other thing. So when we do Twitch from now on, only we're gonna be doing other stuff. I've gotten all y'all's messages as it relates to the political talk and the general conversation as it relates to society in America. And I get it. It's a lot. I get it. It's divisive. So from now on, we will be only doing that content on Twitch. Infighting FX is going to live up to the name from now on. When I first started this channel, what I really wanted it to be more than anything was just a place where people can come and debate. People can come and disagree respectfully. And I mean, I can admit I've been guilty on this show of not being respectful. And that's why I'm trying to like make an actual attempt at conversing and having tough conversations. I pride myself on being able to converse about any subject that I feel either strongly about or strongly confused about. And it's tough to manage wrestling, boxing, MMA, which are absolute passions of mine, with the narrative that I might have information that would help other people, and simultaneously conveying that information may and likely will result in me obtaining information from y'all as well. My goal at Infighting FX has always been and will always be the same thing: not to win debates, not to be considered the smartest, but to arrive at the best conglomerative answer that we possibly can. I've said this before, I'll say it every single time. I would rather be dead fucking wrong, so long as the person that has proven me wrong did so on air. I much rather have somebody call in, tell me why I sounded stupid, make it so that I know I sounded stupid, as opposed to saying everything. And then what usually happens is y'all DM me or send me a message. And that's great. I appreciate the feedback. I really do. I'm not scared to get it online. I'm not scared to get it live, like right now. Somebody were to jump on and be like, dude, this is why you sound like a fucking idiot, and then proceed to make me look like a fucking idiot. As long as I can clip it and show everybody that this is the place where the host will not refrain from having his opinion be overshadowed by facts and truth. So we're gonna do that. And I say all that to say, tonight on Infighting FX, this is the only reason we wouldn't go on YouTube tonight, is because of the topics. YouTube will kick us off very easy for a lot of these topics. But more than anything, I just don't want to confuse the channel. Um, with Twitch, I can do anything and change the subject matter or change the topics or change the theme, and I'll find the audience, right? But with YouTube and TikTok, or YouTube, yeah, TikTok and X, it's only going to be directed at the people that are like actually watching the show like from week to week. So we have a lot of stuff. We'll talk about the Graham Platt stuff. It looks like they're going to get him to drop out. If you're not familiar with who Graham is, he was running for Senate or Congress. I don't even remember now. Against Susan Collins, who's like big piece of shit. Susan Collins, the Republican senator who said that she would only run for a term and then has been there for like ever. So we'll be talking about that. What else? Oh, Netanyahu's on CNN earlier. There's a poll that came out that says somewhere around like 40% of Americans have changed their mind on Israel. And like half of them have gotten to the point where they don't even want Israel as a ally anymore. They want to cut off the arm of help that the US provides. You know, and it's become a big topic. It really has, because 2 years ago when Biden was president, or 4 years ago, whatever, the big talking point was giving money to Ukraine to fight a war against Russia that people felt wasn't America first. And yet you can make the argument that that war helped out America 10 times more than anything we did for Israel. And so at the end of the day, I don't think that there was a narrative that fit this idea that somehow Israel's worth our help and Ukraine wasn't, even though we weren't giving Ukraine money. We're giving them old stock, right? That by the way, you give Ukraine money, that's one thing. You give Ukraine old stock, that's creating jobs for Americans, right? Because once we give them that stock, that is not useless to us, but certainly not worth as much to us, then we have to replace it, meaning that jobs are created, meaning that, you know, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, he went on and he had a lot of stuff to say. Also looks like strikes on Iran is punishment that is not proportional. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Oh, U.S. launching new strikes against Iran. That just happened. So we'll be talking about that too. Kins, are you here? Oh, Mackenzie's here. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and tap out. Appreciate everybody that was tuned in today. Remember, we'll be live tomorrow. We'll be talking about UFC coming up. We'll be talking about some of the boxing topics that have made the news. Real quick, I do want to mention this. Let me go to my X real quick. I do want to mention this topic real quick. It's gonna be like 2 minutes, I promise. But wait, where is it? Oh, the New York Nickaholics followed me. Oh, that's cool. I'll follow back. Oh yeah. Shout out to the New York Knicks. Wait. Where is this thing? Come on. Oh, here we go. Bookmarks. Nope, that's not it. All right. Let's see. Okay. Shout out to the Adams Boxing Show. Those guys are great. I watch them. I've been watching them for a really long time. They got a great podcast. And yeah, shout out to them. But I did see this post that they made earlier today. I responded to it. Shout out to them. But I wanted to bring this to the table real quick, more for a clip than anything. But this is from the Adams Boxing Show. They said, Tank Davis shook up social media over the last month. I believe he only came back to Twitter to bully Devin and Shakur while showing they are still beneath him in the boxing game. They fell right into his trap by going back and forth with him. Tank clearly won the war of words with both Devin and Shakur. So, what did I think I replied? I said something like, what's it worth to win the war of words when you're losing, the battle for your career? Um, but I asked, though, the question, did Tank Davis shake up the boxing world in a good way, in a bad way? Did he do it at all? Because I'd argue that using a burner account that you never really admit is you is a bitch move, first of all, right? This idea that, and again, I'm not directing this at the Adams Boxing Show. The point they made was, just the point they made. What I'm saying is that this idea that somehow we admire this aspect from Tank, no, the boxing world is tired of Twitter fingers, I think. And you could lump Devin and Shakur into those. To say that Tank somehow has the ability to just show up on Twitter and talk good smack is somehow like a positive for him or a win for him. No, it's not. It's not even close. This is projection to me. This is a guy who's so thirsty to be back into the limelight and to be, considered what he was once considered, but he can't do it in the ring for whatever reason. So he has to do it online. This is killing the sport. I don't think this is good in any way. I think this is killing the sport. The idea that fighters talk shit without any sort of desire to fight one another, that's not new. But having social media and getting to see those exchanges on a daily basis is building to a fight that's not happening. It's like WWE with the John Cena stuff. They were telling a story. He lost. The idea that he was going to come back confused so many fans because they were watching a story and waiting for the end that they didn't believe was the end. In this case, though, Tank hasn't fought in 2 years. By the time he does fight again, and you look at what he's done with his last 5 years on his resume, where does he really stand in boxing? Right? Like what does he really exist as? Because all I can see is a guy who's done a much better job over the last 5 years talking a good talk as opposed to fighting a great fight. The competition, like he's no hungrier to fight anyone today than he was at any point in the last several years. And this idea that he comes out with this burner account to go back and forth with Devin and Shakur, knowing all the while you're not even remotely close to coming back to fighting. That's not a good thing to me. That's concerning to me. So they're saying that, Tank is coming back in the first quarter of 2027, right? And the order to fight Floyd Schofield, like all of that is just nonsense, right? All of that is just nonsense because ultimately you have a guy in Schofield whose father's just derailing any sensibility that this kid had or any reputation that he had, and it's sad because it's not the fighter's fault. It's his dad who won't shut the fuck up when he sounds dumb as shit. Now the idea of rumors circulating that he was going to fight Roach again in a rematch, based on the fact that he had a majority draw with him back in his last fight, which was March 2025. Yeah. So, coming back to fight a Schofield, like, I'm sorry, that's your how do you win a narrative over Devin Haney and Shakur in 2026 when the two guys that they beat were Brian Norman Jr. and Teofimo, whereas you haven't fought anyone but Lamont Roach since 2025? There isn't someone clever enough, witty enough, or enough of a troll to be able to get out in front of that narrative. I'm sorry, it's not even close to true. But that said, I don't think that Tank is going to fight this year, obviously. And I don't think that we're going to see Tank in a big fight next. I certainly don't consider Schofield a big fight. Mike Coppinger had revealed that Bill Haney said that they found out he's not going to be ready, right? So whatever negotiations, whatever, he's not going to be ready till next year. And so that means he's going to have a fight before any big fight. I just think that Tank putting more pressure on himself by talking, even in a burner account, is putting himself in a bad position, because the amount of pressure, the amount of stakes that you're putting on your own fights, it's unnecessary, right? Let those guys do what they're doing. Tank is mad that these guys have caught up to him. Tank is mad that these guys are now considered like it was before thought, oh, Tank beats Shakur, Tank beats Haney, Tank beats whatever, right? Like, oh, these are the best fights we want to see, but Tank wins. That's not the narrative anymore. I don't even know what Tank we'd find when he comes back to fight, being that I don't know how focused he's been. You don't just show back up to your sport and pick up where you left off, right? Pitchers who come back from Tommy John surgery, they got to go like 3 months of rehab before they can pitch again, right? And that is the same thing at the highest level of boxing. Nothing can prepare you for it. And yet you can't even know what version of yourself is left by the time you're back in the ring. How much has he been training? How much has he been staying away from the negative aspects of the sport and the lifestyle that can hinder your ability as a fighter? I don't know. All I know is he still is of the maturity level that he believes a good tactic would be to create a fake account to troll or talk shit back. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I want to thank everybody who tapped in. Appreciate everybody. Remember, you can go to Infighting FX on all platforms, including YouTube, X, TikTok, and Twitch. Yeah, YouTube, X, Twitch, and TikTok. And then you can go to IG and follow me at Mario Munguia. That's my personal on IG. And then Infighting FX on all other platforms. We'll be back in a couple of hours doing the Twitch stick. We'll be gaming, talking a little bit about what's going on in the world. So please hit the sub, please hit the follow, please hit the like, please hit the share. And if you're not coming back with us tonight, then please make sure you have your notifications on, because we will be back tomorrow. And until then,